Hello, all you weirdos. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Freaky Friday, where each episode I'm going to bring you along on a tale of a legendary ghostie. This week we are heading to New York, specifically a small suburban village in Long Island, where we're going to pull up to a beautiful home that was built in 1927. It's a 3-story Dutch colonial home, roughly 3,600 square foot, with 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, a finished basement, and a boathouse. It used to be known as 112 Ocean Avenue, but has changed to 108 Ocean Avenue by previous owners to steer tourists away. But if you are a fan, then you'll know this house by sight, because today we are talking about the Amityville Horror House. The DeFeo family lived in this home from 1965 up until all but one of them was murdered in 1974. We are putting the spotlight on Robert DeFeo Jr., obviously, who lived in the home with his ma and pa and 4 of his younger siblings. Robert, being a junior, he went by Butch as a nickname, so we'll call him Butch for the remainder of this video. They were an upper middle class family, living comfortably. Robert Sr. worked at the Buick dealership that his wife's father owned, and he was known to be a domineering and aggressive father with a history of domestic friction and being volatile. Car dealership families run deep, so naturally Butch started working for his grandfather at the same Buick dealership. On November 12, 1974, the DeFeo family sat down for dinner, and sadly, no one tasted the sedatives that Butch later claimed to have slipped his entire family. In the wee hours of the morning, approximately 3:15 a.m., on November 13, 1974, 23-year-old Butch entered the rooms of his parents and his 4 siblings and shot them with a rifle while they slept. He discarded the rifle, his bloody clothes, and some other evidence before going about his day like nothing happened. And it wasn't until later that evening that he came home and was like, "Oh no, what happened here?" Figured it was time to call the cops and report everything. So when Butch was brought in for his statement, he quickly blamed the mob. Apparently his mother's family, so the grandpa he was working for that owned the dealership, he had strong ties to the mob, but when that just wasn't adding up, he did break down and admitted that he committed the crimes. He claimed that he heard voices from the house that told him to do it, and was quoted telling the judge, "Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went by so fast." Of course, his legal team tried the insanity gig, but with Butch's known abuse of alcohol, heroin, and LSD, that didn't stand a chance. It was said that all of the abuse together caused his aggression around the time of the murders. He was sentenced to 6 life sentences and was held until his death in 2021. Of course, with the family being dead and the doer being in jail, the house was up for sale. About a year after the crime, the Lutz family bought and moved into the murder house in 1975. Their real estate agent, she did inform them of the murders during their inspection, but it really didn't bother them at all. In fact, they apparently even purchased some of the furniture that was left in the house from the DeFeo family for an additional $400. And just as these scenarios tend to go, things started innocently enough. The Lutz family reported doors and windows opening and closing on their own, objects moving around the house, unexplained noises such as banging footsteps and voices. Then they claimed there was a stinky, smelly green slime just oozing from the walls. And then after that, George Lutz, the father, began having dreams and visions. One of the dreams included seeing himself holding a shotgun aimed at his family. Then you have Kathy Lutz, the mom, who started seeing apparitions of a demonic pig-like creature with glowing eyes. And I immediately thought to myself, like, that's odd. You saw a pig of all things. So I did Google it, and apparently in traditional demonology, malevolent spirits often take shape of an animal or beast to mock creation. So, I mean, I still don't get it, but it explains why she saw a pig, allegedly. The Lutz family quickly called a priest to come bless the house, during which the priest heard a masculine voice telling him to get out. Accounts say that later the priest also developed blisters on his hands that resembled the crucifixion wounds of Jesus Christ. Obviously, the blessing didn't work because George began feeling evil in the house. His behavior became erratic, and he started waking at 3:15 a.m. with physical discomfort. 3:15 a.m. being the time the DeFeo family was fatally shot by their own son and brother. Now, you can't have a house that acts like this around that time and not have Ed and Lorraine Warren walk into the picture. There is a photo floating around the internet that was apparently captured when Ed and Lorraine came to investigate the home. It is a photo that captured a little boy with glowing eyes peeking out of the darkness. Lorraine Warren would later go on to say that this case haunted her the most throughout her entire career. Now, depending on how you feel about the Amityville Horror House, the Lutz family, or Ed and Lorraine Warren, you may or may not enjoy the next part of this story, the debunction. There are huge, I guess you would call them conspiracy theories, running circles around this whole story. The Lutz's family life in the Amityville house ended after just 28 days. In January of 1976, the family hauled ass out of that house with barely even the clothes on their backs. They left all of their belongings and fled to a relative's house, but later a moving company did come and pack up the house for them and shipped everything to them. And guess what? The moving company reported nothing at all spooky or paranormal happened the entire time they were packing up. Just 2 months fresh out of the haunted house, Mommy and Daddy Lutz met with author Jay Anson, and they provided Jay with over 45 hours of tape recordings regarding their experiences in the house. Jay wrote the book that we all know as the Amityville Horror, and it spent 42 weeks on the bestsellers list. And yes, Kathy and George Lutz did receive royalties for their part in this best-selling book. It didn't take long for researchers and skeptics to tear the book apart and start to debunk things. For instance, the book claimed a discovery of hoof prints in the snow on one particular day, and I guess it was easy for them to claim what days were what because they only stayed a total of 28 days. However, researchers rejected that statement, revealing that on that particular day in that part of New York, there was no snowfall at or around that time. There was also a fact that was checked and revealed that the local police, or any authorities for that matter, they were never called. Neighbors also reported that nothing unusual had happened in the time that the Lutz family was moved into the house. We also have notes of 2 people that came forward and confirmed this was all a hoax. And that is the priest that was mentioned in the book, as well as in the movie, and Butch DeFeo's very own lawyer, William Weber. The Hollywood priest was based on, I'm going to call him Father P because I feel like I'm going to hell if I disrespect a father and mispronounce his name. So the Hollywood priest was based on Father P, who stated in an affidavit that the only contact he had with the Lutz family on this paranormal matter was over the phone. He claimed he never met the Lutz family in person and never came to bless the house. And I feel like you are definitely going to hell lying about a priest of all people. Then moving on to the lawyer, you're probably wondering how they got into cahoots with Butch DeFeo's lawyer, of all people. Apparently, the Lutz family sought out legal and media advice regarding the spooky stuff that's tied to the property they bought, and that was when they decided to collab together on book and publicity deals. That was until the money got so large they just had to start fighting about it, leading William Weber to claim that he, George, and Kathy came up with the ghost stories. He stated, "I know this book is a hoax. We created this horror story over many bottles of wine." And this betrayal led the Lutzes to sue not only William Weber, but also several newspaper and magazines that put an article out about that story being a hoax. George and Kathy sued for $4.5 million in relief of mental distress, misappropriation of names for trade purposes, and invasion of privacy. Eye roll. There really is no yay or nay on if this whole thing was a hoax or not. It all depends on which side of the fence you teeter on. On one side of the fence, I can say that it was confirmed that George and Kathy underwent a polygraph test by 2 top polygraph experts, and the results came back positive. They were not lying. On the other side of the fence, you have the other 4 owners of the Amityville house that came after the Lutz family. Every owner since has claimed there has been no paranormal activity whatsoever in the time that they owned the house. The note that I want to end on has to do with the investigation Ed and Lorraine Warren did on the house. And I'll leave you to make up your own mind if you think everything was a hoax. But according to the Warrens, they strongly denied that the Amityville house is a hoax. Lorraine stated that the house possessed a terrifying demonic presence and described it as the closest she has ever been to hell. So that is the story of the Amityville Horror House. If you have any other ghosties or haunted places that you would like for me to do an episode on, drop a comment below. And until next time, bye!